Hello, 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 hello. Hello, guys. I think it's time for us to begin today's lesson. And first of all, I welcome you all to the first lesson on SkillSync Design Bootcamp. And today's lesson will be talking about the introduction to graphic design and its principles. So we get to understand the basics of designing and the principles that govern designing in this lecture. Hello, guys. I think it's time for us to So when we begin with the meaning of graphic design. So when we talk about graphic design, we talk about we talk about the art of visual communication, how we use elements and then images to communicate to an audience. So that is what we mean by graphic designing. So in this presentation, today's lesson, we'll be talking about design elements and we'll be talking about principles in the graphic design industry, in graphic designing. So we continue with design elements. So when you talk about design elements, they are the basic building blocks of any piece of art. So when you pick up a design anywhere, there are certain elements that come together to form that particular design. And those pieces are what we call design elements. So, and these design elements are the ones that, whether they are well done or not, all pieces of art, all pieces of design have these elements in them. So, but then some sources may differ on their exact list of elements and definitions. But what we are going to do today is going to get you started. Our first element to be talking about is line. So with a line, it's just a continuous mark made on a surface or the edge created when 2 points meet. So like we have on our far right here is a line. We also have another element called shape, which is the two-dimensional element with area on a plane. So like we have here the square, the circle, the triangle, and irregular shapes. They are all what shapes. We also have forms. So form is just the 3D of the shapes. So we have cube, cuboid, we have sphere, and those things. Those are forms. Another design element here is the color. When these colors are what? The visible spectrum of radiation that are reflected from an object. So when it comes to color, we all know color. We've been playing with colors. Then another way we refer to colors in designing is hue. Though they are different, we'll get to learn their differences later on during this lesson. We also have value. The value refers to how light or dark an object or area or element is. independent of its color. So value like this is also sometimes referred to as tone. That's what you hear people use as tone. And and then we also have texture. So this texture is how you want your surface to feel, how you want the design to feel. If you want the background to be rough, if you want it to be smooth, if you want it to feel like a paper or a cloth, if you want it to feel glossy, then this is what we mean by texture. And then we also have space. The space is the distance or area around what? Around an element or within your work. So the space like this, we'll be saying a lot, we'll be talking more about it later during this particular lesson. But space is very important in your design. You need to leave a lot of space in your design so that the element gets a lot of breathing space. And then we have size. Size refers to the relationship of the area occupied by one shape to that of another. I want to know if the sound is okay now so that we can continue. A lot of you are saying the sound is very low on your side. Let me know in the comments. So we continue. With the design principles, they are the you can think of it as the rules that govern how we use these elements, the shapes, the text, the lines. The design principles are the rules. So if the elements are the ingredient, then the principles are the recipe for a good work of art. How the principles of design are applied determines how successful one is in creating a work of art. Don't worry, today we are doing all the theory, and then from next lesson going, we'll be dealing with the practical section. But it is very essential that you take notes and then you learn more about this theoretical part because it's going to help you when you get to the practical side. So our first rule or the first principle is contrast. Whenever you are creating a design, keep this in mind. Contrast is how you make objects or elements different from the other. Remember, look at how I made the contrast different from the body text down here. It makes you read the word contrast before you read the body. So contrast is making the elements so different. And most of the times we use type style or font style like bold and light. So we make the heading bold, we make the body text light. And this is how we draw contrast with type. Sometimes we give different colors. We make the heading very black and then we make the body gray. Now we come to emphasis. Emphasis is created by visually reinforcing something we want the viewer to pay attention to first. So most of the time when you pick a design, there's one particular text that the designer places more emphasis. and that is what the designer is looking for, that you see or watch first or you read first. So we put in much emphasis on that particular word or that particular side so that you watch that part first. So this is often used to train the viewer's eyes on the center of interest or a focal point. Then we talk about repetition. So repetition of elements in regular or cyclic fashion creates interest. Repetition strengthens a design by tying together individual elements and bringing a sense of consistency. So in designing too, we need consistency. We need consistency. So whenever you are creating a design, make sure your colors, you are very mindful. Your fonts, you are very mindful. And your shapes too, you are very mindful. So if we consider the design on our right side, you realize that the person was trying to use the same font, the person was trying to use the same shapes, that is rectangles, and then you was trying to use two colors. So this is how we do what? We repeat elements. We don't include so many colors and don't include so many font styles. Don't include so many different shapes. Make sure you remain consistent with everything you are doing. The next on our list is alignment. Maybe you are trying to create a work of art. In that case, you are permitted, because the rules, yes, we have rules, but sometimes you can break them to create your own work of art, and that is how it's done. The alignment, looking at our design on our far right, realize that the elements on the first general meeting, they are what? They are aligned. All the elements on the left side are all aligned, and then the bottom two are all aligned. When check your right side too, they are all aligned. That is how we, that's what I mean by alignment. I hope you get it. Now we come to proximity. With the proximity, we're talking about how you bring together elements that look alike or that are related. So for example, when you pick designs or flyers of events that are what brought about by two people or two companies, you realize that all of them, their logos are at the top. So an example is what we have here. We have the two logos at the top. So this is what we mean by proximity. We don't put one logo at the top, one logo at the bottom. No, we bring them together. You bring the heading, everything related to the title together. You bring the dates and everything related to the event all together. So we have the date, the time, the venue, and the rest of the information all together at the bottom. And that is what we mean by proximity. So if you want access to these slides, you can get them in the group. I shared the link earlier in the group. You can get them. And then we come to the role of graphic designers in various industries. Now, when graphic designers' role are very essential in all industries, almost all industries, and a lot of people don't know about this. You can work in all industries, even in the health sector, you can work there. So you can work in the health sector. Now, you can, first of all, let's talk about the marketing and advertising agencies. So graphic designers play a pivotal role in creating eye-catching advertisements, banners, and social media visuals for these marketers. And then when it comes to the web designing and then user experience designing, graphic design is also essential in crafting user-friendly and visually appealing websites and apps. So your mobile apps that you are using, the website you are visiting, musicians, and then also create promotional materials. Now, when it comes to the publishing and print media, graphic design is crucial in book covers, magazine layouts, and newspaper designs. So graphic design, your role over here is what you make covers, some of the roles here, because sometimes you can get into the industry and they will give you different work to do in that particular industry. Now when it comes to the architecture and the interior designs, graphic designers are responsible for creating signage, wayfinding, and environmental graphics in architectural and interior design. And then we have the fashion designers and then apparel. So for fashion designers, the thing is that before they can do the physical part of it, they have to then put a diagram down before they are able to do it. So graphic designers role is also needed here. And then after sewing or after creating the product, the graphic designer's role is needed when it comes to maybe printing or branding of the shirts or the clothes. Now we come to the healthcare and medical communication, like I said. So the graphic designer's role here is to create these illustrations, the patient's education materials, and health related infographics. So when you go to the hospital, you realize that we have these posters around that advises you to put on those masks, that advises you to wash your hand, and those things. All those things were designed by what? A graphic designer. So your role also extends to this point. Now we come to the educational and then e-learning. Graphic design plays a role in designing educational materials, textbooks, and e-learning modules. So the books you are using, the cover, and then some of the images there were done by a graphic designer. Now we also come to the NGOs and then social causes. So we have graphic design aids in creating impactful visuals. So you realize that there are some people who come around this orphanage. They come around with flyers seeking for a donation. That flyer was then designed by a graphic designer. Before then, it was printed to be used by this orphanage. So your role also extends to that part. And then we also come to the food and beverage industry. So realize that we have vast. We can't talk about all of them, but let's talk about a few and then we continue. So when it comes to the food and beverage industry, we talk about packaging design. So when you go and buy KFC, the packaging, it was designed by a graphic designer. The menu layout, when you go to a restaurant, the food product branding rely heavily on the graphic designer. Now the last part over here is real estate and then property marketing. So graphic design is used in property brochures, signage, and virtual tours. Before we continue, I would like to talk more about where graphic designers work actually. So like I said, these are where the graphic designers work. They work, first of all, we said advertising and marketing firms. Secondly, you can also talk about design studios. Yeah, design studios. So where they work on a range of projects from branding and packaging design to web design and illustration, depending on the role you are given in that particular design studio. And then we also have in-house designers. So you might hear something like in-house designer on LinkedIn. So in this case, you are employed by a company in various industries, including fashion, hospitals, technologies, or finance, to handle their design needs internally. So the company employs you and you work inside the company for them. We also have freelancers. So when you hear freelancers, they offer their services independently to clients, often working remotely from home or office. So you stay at home and then you work for clients. So someone reaches out to you, I want this, I want that. You do it for the person, and then you take your money and leave. And then we talked about publishing houses, media companies, educational institutions, government agencies. So this is where you provide design services for public campaigns, publications, and communication materials. So for example, this year like this is an election year in Ghana here. So there will be a lot of campaigns here, and graphic designers are going to make a lot of money from here. So as a graphic designer, you have opportunities to work across diverse industries and sectors. I want to know in the chat section, where would you like to work as a graphic designer? Let me know in the chat section. So then we can continue to the design software. So we continue with design softwares. So over here are some of the design softwares you have to pay attention to. So first of all, we start with the Adobe Creative Cloud. So the Creative Cloud is not a software though, it's like a package. So where we have different softwares in it. So when it comes to the package, we have, first of all, we have the Adobe Photoshop. So this is where we do image editing and then manipulations. So most of the times designers use this for their photo retouching and other stuffs. So Photoshop. And then we come to Illustrator. So Illustrator is for vector graphics and illustrations. So most of the logo you see in town, you see anywhere, everywhere, is or was made in Illustrator. When you have InDesign, Adobe InDesign, so the Adobe InDesign is used for page layout and desktop publishing, like the magazine you see the newspaper and the rest. They were all done in Adobe InDesign. We also have Adobe XD. Adobe XD is for the UI UX design. And then we have Premiere Pro, Adobe Premiere Pro, which is used for video editing. We also have Adobe After Effects, which is also used for motion graphics and these animations. But then sometimes different designers use After Effects for video editing. But I recommend you use the Premiere Pro for video editing. Now, the Creative Cloud allows seamless integration between these software programs. So when I'm using Illustrator, I can get access to the Illustrator files on Photoshop. That is why most designers prefer the Adobe Creative Cloud. We also have Sketch, which is also used for the UI UX, but it's used by the Mac OS users. If you don't have Mac, then I think your friend should be this guy, Figma. So Figma is a cloud-based design tool which is accessible from any platform with an internet connection. So like today, assuming I was unable to get access to my machine, I was about to stream from my mobile phone. So I get access to my files on my phone. So I have access to the Figma files on my phone. Right now, I'm also streaming from Figma. So let me move back. And then you realize that this is Figma. So when I go back to the slides, these are where my slides are. And this is how it looks like. That's Figma. It's popular for collaborative design work. It allows multiple users to work on the same project at the same time. So Figma is widely used for web and app design, prototyping and user testing, but sometimes we use it for social media graphics. Like me, all the SLILLSYNC graphic works were done in Figma. And then we also have CorelDRAW, which is just a combination of the Photoshop, Illustrator, and the InDesign. CorelDRAW is the combination of those three. And then Canva is also a design tool, just like the Photoshop, but it has a lot of limitation. Procreate, Affinity Designer, and Inkscape are very good tools that are used by designers who are like logo designers and brand designers, and then they do a lot of illustrations. And then we have Blender. Blender is used for 3D units. So whenever they want to create 3D characters, 3D imaging or animation, then they use Blender. Designers use Blender. We also come to AutoCAD, which is used by engineers, architects, and then interior designers. They use the AutoCAD. Now we come to the basic design terminologies and the vocabularies. So these are the things that you are supposed to be familiar with. You need to be familiar with them. So that when we are working with a client and then you use these terms, they will know that yes, you know what you are doing, or you are qualified. So let's begin. First of all, we talk about hierarchy. The hierarchy is the organization of content to convey the relative importance. The relative importance of different elements. So hierarchy in a nutshell is how you guide your viewer's eye on your design. I want you to watch this first. I want you to watch this second, this next, this that, so that they will be able to consume the information very well. So typically it's achieved through variations in size, color, and placement. The second term is typography. Now when you hear typography, like the word type, you hear type within typography, which means we are talking about the text. Is the art and technique of arranging your text to make it visually appealing and readable. So it includes font choice, your size, your spacing, your formatting. The typography is a whole thing. It's very broad, and then you need to take your time, do your research about typography, learn it well. Another thing is grade. Grade is just the horizontal lines and the vertical line that help you align and then organize your elements. You remember we talked about alignment in design principles. So the grade helps you align your elements. They are like rulers. They are meant to be used but not to be seen. We don't want to see your grades. We don't want to see your grade on your design. Those lines, we don't want to see it. And then it provides structure and consistency in your design. Now let's come back to space again. Remember we talked about space, but this time we're talking about white space. So when I say white space, the empty or unmarked space in a design. So the part that I didn't put any element there, that is what we call white space. Consistency in it helps directs the viewer's attention. It gives a lot of breathing space to the elements on your design. Now let's come to scale and proportion. Scale refers to the size of elements in relation to one another or to the overall design. That is scale. So with scale, we're talking about the size. Nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. It's just the size of the elements you are using. But proportion, it involves maintaining pleasing ratios between elements. The ratio between elements. Okay, the body should be 2 times the size of the heading, or the heading should be 2 times the size of the body. That is proportion. Now we come to composition. Most of the bad designs we see is caused by this composition. Composition refers to the arrangement of visual elements within a design. Most of the bad designs is due to wrong composition or bad compositions. So when you do not arrange your elements very well, you end up bringing up a terrible design on the market, and then your clients will take it, but then they will not come back to you. So beware of how you are able to arrange your elements. So your arrangement is what? Composition. We have vector graphics and then raster graphics. Vector graphics, the difference is that vector graphics, when I scale the object so high or I scale it too much, I still maintain my quality. But raster graphics, with the graphics, is that when I increase the size of the file, the image or the graphic starts blurring. So you realize that most of the memes that you have been using on WhatsApp, after some time you realize that they are becoming blur. That is how raster graphics work. They get blur and blur and blur, and then their quality keep reducing. And then with the vector graphics that do not change in quality, we have SVG. SVG means scalable vector graphics. Scalable vector graphics. From the name, you know that they are what? Scalable. And then no matter how much you scale it, their quality is maintained. Most of the big brands, their logo is in SVG. And then we also have AI, which is what? Adobe Illustrator file. So AI, Adobe Illustrator file. So these files are also much like the SVG, but then you can open it within Adobe Illustrator and then work with it as if you are the one who created it. So you get access to each and every shape and text within that file or graphics. Now we come to the raster graphics again. We have JPEG, PNG, and GIF. With the JPEG is the normal image we have. PNG is a transparent image. So most logos are what? Exported or saved in PNG extension. We also have GIF. The GIF you have been using on WhatsApp. They are just like short videos or short videos, but sometimes images can be saved as GIF. We come to mockup. A mockup is a visual representation or prototype of how a design or product will look when finalized. So when you create a logo, when you create a design, a product labeling, maybe I create a product label for a Sobolo drink, the design, when I put it on, when I'm done with it, I have to put it on a bottle so that the client will know, okay, this is how it will look like when you go and print it. So that thing I just did, putting it on a product, is mockup. So I just create a design and put a design on a bottle. That is what we call a mockup. I don't know if I can show you one in my file here. Let me see if I can get one here to show you desktop.